When making this video, I wanted to do first-person shooters only, but I feel we have an array of shooters from the third person that really needed to be on this list. So without further ado, let's count down the top 10 shooters on the Nintendo Switch. In my number 10 spot, we have VIGOR, which is an online looter shooter game set in post-apocalyptic Norway. The goal is to stay alive and build a shelter that will protect the player against the harsh environment. Players called Outlanders have to seek resources and better equipment. Again, this is a free-to-play game with add-ons you can get by paying with real money. For a free online looter shooter, you certainly get a lot of content, and I had to have it on my top 10 list of the best shooters on the Switch system. In my number 9 spot, I have Rogue Company. In this third-person tactical action shooter, it puts the fate of the world in your hands. Suit up as one of the elite agents of Rogue Company, each with their own individual set of skills, and go to war in a variety of different game modes. The great thing about this game is that it's completely free to download and play. Obviously, for a free game such as this, it has microtransactions, but you can enjoy all the fun the game has to offer without spending a penny. This is a port that not many people speak about, but I absolutely love it. Metro 2033 is played from a first-person perspective. Players encounter human and mutant enemies who can be killed with a variety of firearms, or players can employ stealth to evade or silently kill their enemies. Ammunition and other necessary items must either be scavenged from the bodies of dead enemies or purchased from vendors. Some areas of the Metro tunnels, in addition to the Earth's surface, are covered in fallout radiation, and the player must wear a gas mask to explore these areas. The gas mask is worn while in combat, it may be damaged, and the player must quickly find a replacement before they die. The Borderlands games will always have a special place in my heart, and as of this year you've been able to play them on the Switch. Both games in the Handsome collection feature remastered graphics and are capable of running at 1080p resolution at 60 frames per second, with playing with 1 or 2 local players when you're playing in dock mode. The games are also capable of local split-screen multiplayer of up to 4 players rather than the 2-player limit of the previous generation versions. 4-player mode will reduce the frame rate to 30 frames per second, unfortunately. Obviously, experience of the frame rate is not as good as on the Switch as it is with the other consoles, but it's still very impressive and one of the best shooters available to date on the Switch system. A game that people questioned when it came out on the Switch and its capability to run it, but in my opinion it runs just fine. WOLFENSTEIN 2: The New Colossus is an action-adventure shooter game played from a first-person perspective. To progress through the story, players battle enemies throughout levels. The game utilises a health system in which players' health is divided into separate sections that regenerate if an entire section is lost. Players must use a health pack to replenish the missing health. Players use melee attacks, firearms and explosives to fight enemies, and they may run, jump, crawl and occasionally swim to navigate through the locations. Melee attacks can be used to silently take down enemies without being detected, or players can ambush enemies, which often results in an intense firefight between the two parties. This is great fun and definitely worth adding to your collection if you're really into first-person shooters. Celebrate Doom's 25th anniversary of Doom 64, originally released on Nintendo 64 back in 1997, back when I was only 6 years old. Fight against demons in your crusade to hunt down the mother of demons and stop Hell's invasion, as you battle through more than 30 action-packed levels. This game was always cheap as chips on the eShop and is squeezed into my top 5 due to the nostalgia this game gives me to this day due to being a massive fan of the N64. Years and years ago, people used to use CRYSIS as a benchmark of whether or not you had a powerful PC or not. So when the remastered version came to the Switch, a lot of people questioned the performance, and once again it runs awesome on the Switch. In CRYSIS, the player is capable of selecting various modes in Nomad's military nanosuit, which draw power from the suit's energy. When the suit's energy is depleted, no modes can be used and the player is more vulnerable to damage before. until the suit actually recharges. One of 4 modes can be selected, so you've got Armour, which deflects damage and recharges the suit's energy faster, Strength, which allows stronger hand-to-hand combat, the ability to throw objects and enemies with deadly force, higher jumps, steadier aiming and reduced weapon recoil, Speed increases running and swimming, as well as other forms of motion such as reloading weapons, and the Cloak, which renders Nomad almost completely invisible and suppresses movement noise. At the time, this was a really groundbreaking game when it initially released, and it gets such a high spot in my top 10, not only for this, but also just because it's an amazing game with some amazing mechanics. It was a throw-up between this and Overwatch, which I wanted to include in my top 10, but unfortunately I ran into a lot of performance issues with Overwatch on the Switch, and the fact that Paladins runs absolutely fine and is free, it has to get into my top 3. So Paladins provides various characters called champions for the player to choose during their gaming sessions. Each of these champions falls into one of the following categories, being frontline, damage, support and flank. Being a team-based shooter, players must rely on strategy, character knowledge, coordination and teamwork in order to attain victory. A good team will have a balanced choice of classes that will support each other during the game. This is great fun, and if you haven't tried it, it's definitely worth a go in my opinion. I think we all knew this would be in a shooter top 10, but it doesn't get my number 1 spot. In case you didn't know, or you've been frozen the past few years, Fortnite is an online video game developed by Epic Games, and it released back in 2017, so it's still only 3 years old. It's available in 3 different game modes. So you've got Save the World, where you basically try and survive from zombies and fight off some zombie type creatures. You've got Fortnite Battle Royale, which is a free-to-play battle royale game where 100 players battle out. And you've got Fortnite Creative, in which players are given complete freedom to create worlds and battle arenas. An ingenious game that everyone should try at least once, and usually that one try is enough to get you hooked. Now for me, this gets the number 1 spot, as not only is it a Nintendo exclusive, it's also one of the most fun and addictive games available on the system. Like its predecessor, Splatoon 2 is a third-person shooter in which players control characters and use coloured ink as ammunition. Ink is also used to cover the ground or any paintable surface, in order to swim or refill their ink tanks. Both sets of characters known as Inklings and Octolings can morph between humanoid or kid form, where they switch from walking and shooting, into squid form, where they can quickly swim through ink of their own colour and replenish their ink supply, as well as return to full health. Now, as I said, this game is so fun and so addictive, and if you're into shooters and you have a Switch, I do think this should definitely be in your collection. Any games you feel should have made the list, or any games that shouldn't have? Have I been completely bogus in my choices? Let me know in the comments below. Again, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help the channel with more content, and until next time, see you later.